May 18th, 18th of May, May 18th. It's the 18th of May. Today is the 18th of May, 2020 to 18th of May. May 18th, 18th of May. Today is May 18th, 18th of May. So yeehaw, giddy up, cowboys. Let's get her done, right? Let's get her done. The World Health Organization used to discriminate against gay folks. In 1948, classified homosexuality as a psychological disorder. So the World Health Organization, great name, sounds like it's international. They're telling everybody how to live and how to be, but they began saying, just like the American Psychiatric Association, that homosexuality is a disorder. Therefore, it needs to be treated. It's not normal. And it's, we got to do something. Get them in the homosexual therapy. We need to, get them to pray out the gay. That's the World Health Organization. So, should we cut their funding? Shouldn't we? I don't know. They, were wrong for decades. Also, I learned that the American Red Cross refused to take black blood for blood transfusions in World War II. Oh, no, what, you need blood? You got shot? Your head's about to fall off? Well, we got black people here ready to give blood. You don't want their blood because you're a racist piece of shit? Fantastic. So, Adolf Hitler is talking about the purity of the Aryan race, and here you got white Americans sitting there saying that their race is the most pure. We can't tarnish our blood with black blood, but you're going to die. Doesn't matter. We're racist until the end, but you're going to die. Like I said, we're racist to the goddamn bone. 1872, Bertrand Russell, mathematician, historian, philosopher, Nobel Prize laureate. He was born in 1872, May 18th, 18th of May, in 1872, Bertrand Russell was born. He said, all that passes for knowledge can be arranged in a hierarchy of degree of certainty with arithmetic and the facts of perception at the top. Bertrand Russell, born today. Let's read a little paragraph. All right, so this is Bertrand Russell, an outline of intellectual rubbish, written in 1943. Under the influence of great fear, almost everybody becomes superstitious. The sailors who threw Jonah overboard imagined his presence to be the cause of the storm, which threatened to wreck their ship. In a similar spirit, the Japanese at the time of the Tokyo earthquake took to massacring Koreans and liberals. Massacring Koreans and liberals because there's an earthquake in Tokyo. When the Romans won victories in the Punic Wars, the Carthaginians became persuaded that their misfortunes were due to a certain laxity, which had crept into the worship of Moloch. So the Carthaginians worshipped Moloch, right? Just like the Christians worship God and Jesus, Carthaginians worshipped Moloch. And the great Moloch, what did he want? He liked having children sacrificed to him, taking babies and toddlers and kids and killing them. And he preferred them to be aristocratic. He really loved killing the children of the rich people. But the noble families of Carthage had adopted the practice of surreptitiously substituting plebeian children for their own offspring. This, it was thought, had displeased the god, and at the worst moments, even the most aristocratic children were duly consumed in the fire. So, yes, you have displeased Moloch. You are not giving him rich kids to kill. You're only giving him poor kids to kill. That's why the Romans are winning. God is displeased. You are now worshiping Moloch. Isn't that ridiculous? Hey, Christians, isn't that stupid how they worship Moloch and Zeus and what's Muslims? They believe in one true God? Well, ridiculous. Isn't that insanity? Okay, so, so that's fantastic, right? Outline of intellectual rubbish, Bertrand Russell. He's born today, right? And let's see here. Let's get down to all the scientific and political events of May 18th. Really, it's all about what's most important, right? So I'm just going to rattle off a couple things, talk about some things in more in depth, Tina Fey was born today, May 18th, 1970. She was born Elizabeth Stamma Tina Fey. She's 50 years old today. She wrote Mean Girls, parodied Sarah Palin on Saturday Night Live accurately. She's a superstar, right? 1995, Braveheart is going to premiere at the Seattle Film Festival. 1652, May 18th, slavery in Rhode Island is abolished. So Rhode Island abolished slavery in 1652 before America was even born, before America was even a concept, before it even came into existence. Rhode Island had banned slavery. So go ahead and defend George Washington and his slaves, and Andrew Jackson and his slaves. But Rhode Island in 1652, they knew slavery was wrong. That's why they passed the law. May 18th, 1830, the original lawnmower man was born. Edwin Beard Budding of England. He signs an agreement for the manufacture of his wonderful, great invention, the lawnmower, the old push lawnmowers with the wheels that had the blades that would cut. Edwin Beard Budding is the one that invented it. He was born May 18th, 1830. May 18th, 1986, Chung Kuang-ying. So Chung Kuang-ying of China does 2,750 atomic handstand push-ups. So he's not just standing on his hands straight up and down, but atomic push-up is when you do a push-up, but your feet aren't touching the ground. So as long as your feet are up in the air and you're doing push-ups. And they're saying he did this in 1 day's time. I couldn't find any more information except for this just being a byline of something that happened on May 18th, 1986. So, in modern history, but 2,750 atomic handstand push-ups, nearly 3,000 push-ups, atomic push-ups. That's incredible. So that's an incredible feat of strength. May 18th, 2005. The second photo from the Hubble Space Telegraph confirms that Pluto, which has been demoted, it's not a planet anymore, it's a dwarf planet, but it has 2 additional moons. We just found out that Pluto actually has 5 moons in 2005, May 18th. So Pluto, dwarf planet, it's got 5 total moons: Charon, Styx, Nix, Kerberos, and Hydra. Charon, Styx, Nix, Kerberos, and Hydra. Nix and Hydra were the ones that were discovered just in 2005, 15 years ago. 15 years ago, somebody looked at Pluto and saw a couple planets that we hadn't seen before. Charon, the largest moon, is mutually tidally locked with Pluto. It's massive enough that perhaps Pluto and Charon is sometimes considered a double dwarf planet. The 4 smaller moons are irregularly shaped. So Pluto, tiny little planet Pluto out in the middle of nowhere, they got 5 moons circling around it. We only got 1 moon around us, but they got 5. And then Charon and Pluto, hell, it might be planet Charon and Pluto could be the damn moon. But we just found that out. May 18, 2005, Hubble Space Telescope. May 18, 1815, James Bicino Francis is born. James Bicino Francis. Oh, James, he's an engineer. He originated the scientific method of testing hydraulic machinery. May 18th, 1815. So May 18th, 1889, Thomas Midgley Jr., he's an engineer, fixed a knock in the engine by looking for some additive, any additive. Tetraethyl lead that he could put into the fuel to fix the knock in the engine. That's Thomas Midgley Jr. May 18th, 1889, May 18th, 1811, the Battle of Los Piedras Day, Uruguay national holiday. This is something the Uruguayans who legalized marijuana before everybody, this is something they celebrate. So I'm Uruguayan, you're Uruguayan, we're all Uruguayan today because of the Battle of Los Piedras. So the Battle of Los Piedras, this is May 18th, 1811, the first great military triumph of the revolution of the Uruguayan independence movement, the revolution to overthrow, eventually topple the Spanish, even though ironically both armies in 1811 fought in the name of King Ferdinand VII of Spain. but some were royalist, others were liberal constitutionalists, liberal Republicans, and the liberal Republicans ultimately were victorious. The army of the royalist, Jose Posadas, was totally smashed. He had 1,200 people, and the main man, the hero of Uruguay, Jose Artigas, he had only 1,000 people. So the royalist army, Jose Posadas, had 1,200. Jose Artigas has 1,000 soldiers, but guess what? 200 of the soldiers that was with Jose Posadas switches sides right in the middle of the damn battle. Right in the middle. So even though the royalists had the 200, advantage, more than 200 soldiers, those soldiers are going to deflect, therefore giving the revolutionaries the advantage. And Jose Artigas is going to be successful. Triumph of the Rio de la Plata. So the Rio de la Plata Revolution. After Jose Artigas smashes Jose Posadas, he says, immediately shows mercy. Cure the injured, mercy to the vanquished, respect the prisoners. In Spanish, curado los heridos, clemencia para los vencidos, respetad a los prisioneros. So, yeah, that's happening in Uruguay. Today we all should celebrate Uruguay's national holiday. There wouldn't be a fucking Uruguay if it wasn't for Jose Artigas. If Jose Artigas and his men, the native Uruguayans, or whatever, the anti-royalists, if they didn't smash Jose Posadas' army, then there wouldn't be a Uruguay today. They wouldn't have legalized marijuana. And hell, Colorado might not even have legal marijuana. So, especially all the freedom, marijuana legalization states and countries, they should celebrate with Uruguay with their Battle of Los Piedras day today. This is their national holiday. Science! Let's get to science. So May 18th, 1990 in France, they had a modified TGV. This is a train. They got bullet trains in France in the 1990 that broke a record, 320 miles per hour. That's no 14,000 or 1,400 miles per hour, which is what that one guy did in a plane. But when it comes to bullet trains, 320 miles per hour. I mean, my God, 55 is the limit in some places, 70 to get to 100 miles per hour. Don't you feel like you're flying? But think about 320 miles per hour, 515 kilometers per hour. So this train, a modified TGV train set 325, achieved a new world speed record for railways, for trains on rails. Another French TGV is going to beat this speed record April 3rd, 2007, 357 miles per hour. But before they beat them in 2007, 1990, that held up. So 320 miles per hour used to be the number to beat. Now it's 357 miles per hour. So that happened May 18th, 1990. May 18th, 1980, you had the Gwangju Massacre. The Gwangju Massacre, this is incredible. South Korea, people actually all over the world, they fight and die for democracy and democratic reforms. They fight and die for the right for them to go vote and for other people to vote, to be a part of their government, for them to consent to those, to vote for the representatives. So in South Korea, apparently there's no democracy in South Korea because in 1980, the students called for democracy at a university, and they were gunned down and killed like they were dogs by the government's police and soldiers. So students, innocent students who didn't do shit, makes me think of Tiananmen Square. Overall, 606 are going to be killed. 606 people are going to be killed from May 18th to May 27th. So it starts May 18th, lasts for 9 days. Now, the Gwangju citizens aren't without fault. The university students are innocent, but there were citizens in Gwangju who were robbing local armories and the police to get their weapons. So they were robbing, they were using violence, and they were taking weapons, and so they were killing, assuming they're enemies, right? So in the middle of the citizens killing these people and probably being killed back, That's when the local Chatham University students peacefully assembled for a protest. They were shot and killed. They were raped and beaten by the government cops and the government soldiers. The movement in South Korea is called 5/18 for the day that it began. Unrest began when the 18-year dictator of South Korea was killed, President Park Chung-hee, on October 26, 1979. So October, November, December, you have what, 7 months? 7 months, this president dies, there's this big power vacuum, and you have the people that saying we want democracy, we want to be a part of the government, which is very American. It used to be American, at least in the beginning of our history. Most Americans don't give a shit about democracy today. Most Americans do not vote. They don't even give a shit about voting. But in South Korea, the students there were willing to die, and they died by the bushels. They died by the hundreds. So, yeah, the Gwangju Massacre begins May 18th is when these students demand democracy, but the government wasn't going to have it. So the government went and just killed a whole bunch of students because they wanted democracy. Hey, let us vote. No, you piece of shit, pow, pow, pow. You're not only will you not get the right to vote, you're not even allowed to demand it. You can't even speak up and say it. You can't peacefully protest here. At a university, you don't have free speech at a university. Are you kidding me? May 18, 1967, the Tennessee Governor Buford Ellington signs a bill to repeal the Butler Act, also known as the Monkey Law, which is upheld in the 1925 Scopes Monkey Trial. This prohibited teachers from teaching evolution. Your science, don't teach evolution. It's illegal because of, God and the Bible. But in the end, this 1925, they defended, the bullshit. But 1967, in Tennessee, Buford Ellington, the great governor of Tennessee, Buford Ellington, he went ahead and overturned the Butler Act. He overturned that monkey law, which was upheld in that ridiculous 1925 Scopes monkey trial, which made Tennessee look like the backwards embarrassment that it has been for quite. They also invented KKK, and they killed Martin Luther King. So Tennessee's done enough. They prohibited teachers from teaching evolution. So in the end, the rationalists, the people who believed in science and said, here's a theory. Of course you can teach evolution with the theory of, intellectual design. It's a theory. It's a theory. So the rationalists who thought it was proper for evolution and other theories to be taught in science class and in school, they eventually won out. So the time is on the side of the oppressed, just like Malcolm X said. May 18th, 1388, the Battle of Buyeur. How long have I been? 18. Okay, so I got 12 more minutes. May 18th, 1388, the Battle of Buyeur Lake. This is General Lan Yu, who leads the Chinese Ming army to crush the Mongol hordes. Togus Timur, the Mongol Khan of northern Yun. So this is Lan Yu smashing Togus Timur. So this is just like the Battle of Las Piedras Day, right? Jose Artigas crushes Jose Posadas, just like Lan Yu crushes Togus Timur, who's the Mongol Khan of northern Yun. The Ming captured, this is different numbers, either 3,000 notables and 70,000 regular Mongols. So they captured a lot of citizens, and 3,000 of the elite, some say hundreds of thousands. They took a bunch of domestic animals, and apparently they had the Mongol crown prince, the younger brother, or maybe Togus Timur's son. They caught a bunch of people, but not Togus Timur. Togus Timur is actually going to escape. So even though the army of Lan Yu is going to crush the army of Togus Timur got away. And so Togus Timur, in his flight away from the Chinese Ming army, away from General Lan Yu, Togus Timur arrives at the Tula River, where he meets up with his Mongol chieftain, Yasuda, who promptly kills him. So Mongol chieftain Yasuda kills Togus Timur, even though he escaped and was successful, probably for the major loss. 3,000 notables, 70,000 at least. Mongols are captured, and all those animals, and then maybe hundreds of thousands more people. So that's a terrible loss. Clearly, Yasuda could not allow Togus Timur to be a part of his team, since he has demonstrated incompetence and a flagrant disregard for leadership. You go down with your ship. Your whole army went down, but no, now you're a coward who, sulked and ran away, Togus Timur. So yeah, General Lan Yu, just like Jose Artigas smashed the bad guys, right? The enemies, the terrible, wicked, evil Mongols. May 18th, 1883, Walter Gropius, he's an architect. He designed the JFK Federal Border Building. He was born. Apparently, he's a pioneer of modernist architecture. He designed the University of Baghdad, a whole bunch of other buildings and houses, notably the JFK Federal Building, which is an amazing-looking building. Just squares, right? Just rectangles and squares. Two high-rises, maybe not skyscrapers, and then kind of like a long sort of deck on the bottom. It's white. It's got these sort of columns on the front of it. It looks good. It looks modern, and it looks, efficient. So really, you need a floor, you need some walls, you need a roof. There's your damn building. What do you need an architect for? To put a facade, to make it look pretty, to go ahead and put a little flower behind its ear. Anyways, Walter Gropius. What an awful name for Walter. May 18th, 1883, he's born. May 18th, 1863, the Siege of Vicksburg. The Siege of Vicksburg, Mississippi begins. So this is 1863, Ulysses S. Grant, he's got the generalship, he keeps kicking the Confederates' ass left and right. U.S. Grant, his Army of the Tennessee, they're going to cross the Mississippi River. So U.S. Grant has an Army of the Tennessee. So you have brother versus brother all over the place. Tennessee, they're part of the Confederacy, but U.S. Grant, he takes his Army of the Tennessee, crosses the Mississippi River, pushes Pemberton and his Confederate Army of the Mississippi into Vicksburg, Warren County, Mississippi, just like they did so many times to, in Yahoo Falls, the massacre of Yahoo Falls. Took the women and the kids and put them in a pit, led them in the middle of nowhere, and then massacred the shit out of them. So this is what it seems that U.S. Grant is not doing to women and children that the white supremacists did to the Cherokee and the Yahoo Falls massacre of Kentucky. But he's doing it to grown-ass men, Confederate pieces of shit, drafted into war, paid $1 to go defend their master's right to own slaves. 1 out of 4 owned slaves. Most Confederates didn't own slaves at all. They were just fighting for the right to whatever. They're scared of the government, scared of this. They're being drafted, or maybe they were happy to go fight for the institution of slavery. My massa wants to talk about slaves. You're going to fight and die for the right for your massa to own other people, to depress wages. It's bad for everybody. Free? That's bad for everybody. You want good wages. You want wages to go up. You can't have people being slaves. You can't have people working for free. How could you compete with that? You can't. So having slavery is bad for the working class white man, even whether he knows it or not. So, Mississippi, they pushed into the western border of Mississippi, next to Louisiana, Vicksburg. This is going to be a decisive Union victory. 5,000 Union men are going to get killed, so lots of bloodshed. Lots of bloodshed. 5,000 Americans who fought against slavery, fought for the United States of America to stay united. They fell. But before those 5,000 fell, 33,000 Confederates were killed. This is going to end July 4th, 1863. So fantastic. Independence Day once again. May 18th, it begins. 1863, it ends July 4th. So it's going to last for a month and a half, almost 2 months. 5,000 of the Americans are going to die. 33,000 racist, white supremacist, piece of shit Confederates are going to get killed. Now you have, this is a good thing, but it's not as good as it could have been. In 1848, you had the opening of the first German National Assembly in Frankfurt, Germany. So I have ancestry, I got roots in Germany, so I kind of, pay attention to what's going on in Germany. In 1848, you had this diet, you had this parliament, the National Assembly. So it was all kings and queens until 1848, the revolutions, when Karl Marx wrote his Communist Manifesto, and then all of a sudden you had just an Arab Spring, right? You had an Occupy movement. Just 50 countries erupted in revolution. But it's going to fail in many places. There's going to be some successes in Hungary and, I think France, a couple successes, end of serfdom, shit like that. Colombia and in South America, there's shit happening in 1848 too. But the middle class, ultimately, the German National Assembly is going to be made up of the middle class, here specifically. So the revolutions in March and February had been victorious because risings involving the mass of small traders, artisans, and workers had beaten back armies and police officers officered by monarchists and aristocrats, but the governments and parliaments put in place by them were composed mainly of sections of the propertied middle classes. So the parliament elected for the whole of Germany, including German-speaking Austria, which met in Frankfurt in May, contained no fewer than 436 state employees, civic state employees, government employees led by administrative and judicial officials, 100 businessmen and landowners, 100 lawyers, and 50 clergymen. So where are the working class? Where are the poor? Where are the destitute and the homeless? You got the religious, you got lawyers, businessmen, landowners, state employees, mostly state employees. So a bunch of men who work for the machine are going to represent all of Germany with this brand new National Assembly that's being... So the German National Assembly, they offer the crown to the king, and the king says, I don't want a crown from the gutter. So they did all this shit for nothing. It's going to, wind up losing. I think Bavaria, they're going to kick out their monarch. So I think in spots and pockets of Germany, the revolution was successful, but overall, the 1848, the springtime of nations revolutions are going to fail because of even the liberal Republicans, and they're going to fuck themselves. So the liberal Republicans are going to associate with the royalists more than the rabble, more than the poor and the working class. So because the middle class didn't side with the poor and the working classes in their National Assembly, it's fantastic, right? They got a parliament, they got a Congress. Finally, in Germany, 1848, they got a Congress for everybody. But not really for everybody, not for the poor and the working classes. But the middle class are going to fuck themselves. The liberal Republicans who wanted a constitution are going to fuck themselves when they were back at fighting against the royalists. But this time they didn't have the poor and the working class as the allies as they once had before. Because, sure, you want us to fight and die for your wars, but you ain't going to fight and die for our wars? Fuck you, that's not a good friend, that's not a good ally. You want me to die for you, but you wouldn't die for me? You're not a fucking friend, you're a goddamn enemy. So the middle class ended up fucking themselves over by siding with the royalists, not siding with the progressive changes that would have brought better changes for the poor and working masses. But the first German National Assembly in Frankfurt, Germany did begin, it did open, and it happened today, May 18th, 1848. May 18th, 1979. Jens Jeb Peter Bergensten. This is a Jewish video game designer. Jens Jeb Peter Bergensten. He's born May 18th, 1979, 3 years before I was born. So he's only 41 years old. He co-designed Minecraft. Minecraft being the best video game of all time. He's born. He's Swedish. He went ahead in 2013 named one of Time's 100 most influential people in the world. So Jens Jeb Peter Bergensten also designed Cobalt and another game called Harvest Massive Encounter. He's also married and he has got one child. So he designed Minecraft, best video selling game of all time. That dude, Jens Bergensten, was born on May 18th. May 18th, 1990, East and West Germany signed a monetary union treaty. The peaceful revolution was a series of protests by East Germans led to GDR's first free elections on May 18th, 1990, and that led to the negotiations between the GDR and the FRG, and that culminated in a unification treaty. So May 18th, 1990, the communists and the capitalists, the East and West Germans, signed a monetary union treaty. We are going to combine together politically, but first we're going to get our money right. So this is how we're going to do money. This is how you're doing money. All right. unification is coming back. Germany is going to be unified. May 18th, 1946. Gerd Langus